What secret did you find out about someone that permanently changed the way you looked at them? I just found out yesterday that my wife, 29, a teacher, started an affair with a student, 18, of hers about 2 months ago. We have been together for 10 years and married for 4. We have a 4-month-old daughter and she threw it all away. Career, marriage, and family. I had no idea anything was wrong until 6 days ago when I found her crying in bed and she told me she was depressed. No longer in love with me. And suicidal, mostly because of my drinking habits. I took sole responsibility. Swore off drinking. And had us signed up for marriage counseling the same day, plus got her in contact with a postpartum depression group. 6 days later she is sent to a crisis center by her school and I find out everything after the psychiatrist there makes her tell me the truth when I show up to bring her home. My life is so dark right now that I can't even sleep and I'm holding a 4-month-old baby trying not to cry while her cheating mother is 5 miles away in a hospital room. Safe to say I will never see my wife the same way again. My wife's bestie confided in us that, while short of money, was moonlighting as a professional dominatrix. Until then we had thought that she was super vanilla. There is an engineering professional at my workplace that likes to wear pricey articles of clothing. He even sports a Breitling wristwatch, priced from $3,000 to over $17,000, as his work timepiece. Turns out that he and his wife are buried beneath a mountain of credit card debt. And while I do not look down my nose at him, I definitely view his attire and accessories differently knowing that fact. I had a seemingly innocent friend who normally kept to herself about her issues. Then one day she told us that she couldn't tell if she had a sore throat because she was sick or because she swallowed too much cum the other night. That was the only thing I associated her name with afterwards. When I got to uni at 18, I ran into a girl I was in school with when we were 11-12. We caught up regularly. And one day she told me, very nonchalantly, about how the previous night, she had engaged in sexual acts with a car full of guys in exchange for weed. I was a bit stunned. Mainly because it's so easy to find weed in that town. In my early days as a lawyer I represented a sweet old widower with Parkinson's disease who was being sued by a local store for groceries his late wife had purchased on credit without ever paying for. I felt awful for him. And then, shortly before trial, I found out he'd done jail time for molesting children. My uncle forced my dying granddad to sell over the family beach house for a very low price. He is now a millionaire. How did he become a millionaire? Did he sell it? He created a surf school on the property, which he went on to sell. Then buying a backpackers, which has become pretty successful. Recently found out that my wife enjoys The Big Bang Theory. I'm not sure how I'll get through this. Prayers are appreciated. A family member's ex-wife of several years whom I was still close with asked me never to leave my daughter alone with my relative. She said that the reason they never had kids was that he confided when incredibly drunk that he had uncontrollable desires towards really young girls. He was upset and told her he felt he was evil and deserved to die. She asked him if he ever did anything and he said no and asked her to forgive him and asked God to make him better. Again he was like blackout intoxicated. This was surprising information. She didn't tell me in spite and actually still loves him very much. I haven't heard or seen evidence of grooming or any extra attention paid to any of the female children in my family. He could have just been really drunk and out of his mind, but there is zero way I'm going to leave my daughter alone with him or let her out of my sight at family functions. I don't have evidence that what she said was true, so I can't really do anything with the information other than be diligent. I had a guy in my damned gaming group with a smocking red-headed girlfriend. All of us thought the redhead was gorgeous, but, you know, guy code. Until it was revealed that the slightly annoying but tolerated power gamer of the group made it clear that he thought he was next in line to date the redhead if guy number 1 left the picture. Utterly destroyed our gaming group. Redhead thought it was hilarious in a sad cringe kind of way and hurt his feelings. And I personally, as the dungeon master, was aghast that a human being's mind could operate that way. Like, dude, she's not a friggin' carnival prize. I couldn't stand to play or even speak to him anymore. But it was pretty clear he wasn't coming back anyway. Good riddance. Had an ex. He was one of those I'm so gentle and kind you woo I love pastel colors and flower crowns you woo types. Who went on to date a friend of mine. This friend goes on to tell me they broke up because he admitted to getting sexual with his dog on multiple occasions and asked if my friend wanted to watch him jack off that dog on Skype call. I was like, shit dude. I just broke up with him because he was ducking annoying. There was a woman whom I considered my friend for many years. She had cancer, survived it, but it was still there and created many problems. She even appeared on TV shows as an advocate for cancer patients. Did a lot of political activism. Was very much opposed to euthanasia. Published some books. Then one fine day, through a series of coincidences, it turned out that her cancer had never existed. She had completely made it up. A big fat whopping lie. I would feel ashamed because I fell for it for so long, except that a lot of other people fell for it too. Including professionals, doctors, nurses, priests. Needless to say, it ended that friendship. And it made me think a lot about how easily fooled we all are. Oh. By the way, she has died by now. Of cancer. I'm not kidding. Not the cancer she had made up. Of course. Karma can be such a rick. There was a story about a guy being a serial date rapist as in. He often went out to clubs berserk, drugged girls and raped them. As it turned out, one of my friend knew the rapist and also knew that he'd been doing it for at least 2 years. He also blamed a few girls for it. Made me a bit repulsed by that friend. TBH. Police would be involved if I found out something like that. Some of the girls tried to press charges before but he was never arrested because they couldn't find any proof. He was finally caught when he tried to grape a girl he didn't drug. Found out my best friend tried to grape a girl once and bragged about it to everyone but me. Also found out he held a knife to one of his ex's throats. There are many more things. But finding this out after a 10+ year friendship, I ended it abruptly. Someone I knew told me that he wants the age of consent lowered. And how pedophiles are discriminated against in today's society. Complete game changer. As a kid, I found out my friend had lied to me and the whole school saying that he had trained real Pokemons and that he flies on the Nimbus cloud. Broke my heart as a kid. Not because he lied but because I really wanted to fly on the Nimbus cloud. My boyfriend years ago told me he was abused as a kid by his gay uncle, his actual uncle's partner, yet saw him as usual because he didn't want it to affect the family. And I had to be nice : dart. A few months after he told me, he got drunk and in an argument with his dad yells it so everyone could hear. We broke up not long after. Last I heard his dad was looking for blood and the ex-uncle was in jail. My GF was abused by some of her family members but she refuses to say anything about it as it will destroy the family. I hate going to her family's social events because I then meet the people who abused and I have to be nice to them even though I want to strangle the duck out of them. I don't know how my GF does it as well. As a kid I used to spend a lot of time playing computer games with my neighbor. One day I caught him pressing the caps lock key each time he wanted to capitalize a letter. Told him the shift key did the same job which led him to a 15-minute tirade about how the caps lock button was better. We've drifted apart since. I have a guy friend who has always been quite popular with the ladies, despite being quite an average looking guy. We lost touch for a few years. But within 24 hours of reconnecting again he told me that he secretly meets guys on gay dating apps, hires male trans escorts and absolutely loves cross-dressing. Now the only time we ever really speak is when he wants my opinion on some lingerie or toys. That my friend from middle school was in the witness protection program. And his last name was fake. I read that as his last name was fake and thought immediately, Why the hell would they draw attention to it by making his last name fake? Hi, I'm Michael Fake. I am not running on all cylinders. Had a friend who hung out with two friends who were girls, and he was male. All went well according to him. But the girls told me he said it's getting hot. And proceeded to take off his shirt and masturbate and finish into a cup. Got all sweaty. Then just left. Couldn't look this man in the eye ever again and cut off all contact. The local park homeless alcoholic was once a professor of ancient history and ed languages and could speak and write in languages many of us would never even see. He used to teach at Trinity College until he was convicted for his wife's death. How she died or if he did it is a mystery to me, but one person I've spoken to reckons it was an accident and another says they don't think he did it. Made me see the reality that no matter who you are you could end up in a personal hell. My best friend's brother-in-law kept getting sore throats for months. His normally soft-spoken mother, fed up by this time, screamed at him in front of a full house, "What do you expect if you keep eating that dirty pussy?" Later that day I found out that both he and his GF were dirtballs. He showered about once a month and she would only wash her face, hands, and feet. They are both very attractive, educated, athletic, church-going people, and all I can think of is her pussy is so rotten it's contagious and this Methodica catches it with his mouth. There was a guy I worked with that was kinda handsy, but generally really nice all the time. I learned he was gay, but in the closet. It was then I started noticing how he treated everyone else. Kinda douchey. He isn't handsy with anyone else. So all the positive attention was him trying to flirt, I guess. He was not very good at it. I had a conversation with him when he asked me to lunch. I had to awkwardly explain that I am married, etc. I feel like I may have accidentally led him on. I feel a little bad about it. But I wore my ring every day and I have pictures of my family on my desk. We are still on friendly terms and I introduced him to my circle of gay bro friends to help him acclimate to the culture. We became decent enough friends. But a lot of the flirt-like behavior stopped. It only slightly changed my perception, but I was about 9/10 when my dad told me why he and my mum split up. His exact words in a sad tone were she was seeing another man. He wouldn't tell me who it was. From now on every time an affair is mentioned I give a quick glance to my mum. She still doesn't know I know. Edit. Damn. My highest rated comment is "oh, a throwaway." I work at a trucking company. One day, the other girl who works in the office with me and I were talking about which drivers were our favorites. I mentioned this one kind of cantankerous old veteran who was cranky to 90% of the people but always a sweetheart to me. And the other girl's face went pale. She said, "You haven't googled his name then, have you?" I googled it. And found out he had been arrested for sodomy when he worked at a prison years ago. And that he had flown Nazi flags outside his house. I mean, I knew he was far right leaning politically. But, wow. I'm still nice to the guy. But also low-key kinda terrified of him. There's this really young Sikh kid who clerks an all-night gas station nearby, where I buy my coffee. The other night, when I went in, nobody was at the counter and 3 people were waiting. One guy eventually started knocking random doors. And this kid came out, looks like he's about 17, of the one-room bathroom in the place. About a minute later, as I'm being served, this really old security guy came out of the same bathroom, glanced at me looking shifty, and then scurried off into the night. This town is gross. Sibling set of cousins, my 3rd cousins. 2 sisters and a brother. The youngest sister, she is 31 this year. This happened in about 2009ish, was dating a mixed race guy, one parent black, the other white. I didn't realize how racist the family was. They told her to leave him immediately, and when they found out she not only hadn't left him but was also now having sex with him. Her siblings beat her up while their father watched and they forced her onto a plane to the EU the next day. Black eye and all. Had her personal documents seized by her sister and was basically a prisoner to her. I found out about a year later about this when our other cousin told me. I can never look at anyone in that family again the same way, and it's so sad because as a kid I was very fond of them. The older sister had a coffee shop which my dad used to take us to a lot, and I think that's where he met my stepmom. I am not sure if this is a secret now since my mom knows and I didn't tell her. Though at the time my cousin asked me to keep it quiet because it was top secret and very sensitive information. I don't know if any of the family know that I know about this as well. If any of them ever read this, you guys suck. When my ex cheated on me after a relationship of 5 years, I was devastated. But despite everything I was willing to give her another chance. I still loved her so much. During that time I talked to my mom a lot. I voiced my concerns on how I thought I'd never be able to trust her again. That is when she told me my aunt had an affair. Probably to console me. My aunt and uncle had always been this really nice couple to me. But it seems like I was wrong. They worked it out. But I can't see them any differently anymore. I somehow see her more evil and him a little bit of a victim. When I found out my dad smoked weed, it didn't really change my opinion on him that much. I had thought he might have been a stoner for a few years leading up to the reveal. But finding out he still actively does LSD, shrooms, and occasionally coke made our relationship a little bit weirder. Especially after tripping with him a few times. I still love him and he's still a great guy usually. But I can't look at him the way that I used to anymore. My old man used to hang nooses in the garage when I was very small as a way to manipulate my mother into staying with him. I'll kill myself if you leave. This as far back as 1990. She finally left him 7 years ago. When I found out how he'd been to her all this time, I could never look at him the same way. He did not heal himself. There was this guy in my high school who was the typical big meathead football player bully. Picking fights. Playing mean-spirited pranks. Super homophobic and misogynistic. He was something straight out of a teen movie. My senior year he ended up in my English class. At the end of the year we had to do senior statements, which basically are speeches where you talk about a very painful life-changing event you've been through. He got up and began to tell a heart-wrenching story about how he and his brother had been abused by his father since they were children. He hates football and wishes he could do drama like he wants. But his father would never allow it. He acknowledged what an asshole he is and was besides himself for not knowing how to treat others. He quietly went back to his seat where he proceeded to cry quietly for the remainder of the class. His story radically changed my opinion of him. He was the first person who made me realize most people do deserve compassion. He still lives in my hometown and occasionally I find him at the bar downtown. He's a good guy. Much quieter now. But hopefully pursuing something he loves because he deserves the happiness. My boyfriend's mom cheated on his dad. Then the night I met her she said you're best friends with someone and then all of a sudden you're divorcing them and they're your worst enemy, and I just can't trust her opinion on herself in situations after that. My formerly favorite aunt was jealous of my relationship with her son, my younger cousin. He has always been like my little brother and I was his go-to person for everything. While arguing with him, she accused us of having a sexual relationship, in way more derogatory language, because why else would we be so close? Never mind him basically being raised in my home and me always babysitting. I hope it was just for shock value, but I was disgusted that she would stoop so low to hurt him and me in turn. I told my mother about it and she doesn't believe her sister would say something like that. We must have misunderstood her. I don't see how you can misunderstand what that it said, but whatever.